What is up, YouTube world? It has been a minute. It has been a full minute. So, yeah, I don't even have nothing that I can say about that. It's just been a while. It's been super busy. Things have been growing for me at a rate that I had not expected, and that's always one thing when when you're planting all these seeds. They just shit happens, right? So, what is up, y'all? Oh, I'm glad they sending out notifications. That's what's up. So, what is up, y'all? I want to talk about Black excellence. I want to talk about Black excellence today. Um, Man, so if y'all are local to Denver, I just did this conference, the Black Excellence Conference. Well, really, the theme was Black Excellence. The conference was the Black Boss Summit. Thank you, sis. Thank you. Oh, I got to connect with you for homeschool stuff. So, Nails and Glitter, make sure we connect. Yes, peace and blessings to everyone, y'all. I'm just excited to be up in the room again. And yeah, so let's start talking about some Black excellence. Look, first, let me just tell y'all about this event that I just had because I ran my third annual Black Boss Summit. So this is my third year, and I cannot tell you how excited I was and just putting so much out there and really giving it my all to a vision that I have been cultivating and thinking through for a while, and just seeing it come to life was just like amazing for me. And so we had a little over 150 Black entrepreneurs in the room. We had quite a few vendors. We had 20 vendors. All of my vendor spaces were completely sold out. And it was so dope. Like, I'm gonna post some pictures and things like that here soon. And it was just like, I can't even explain it. It was Black excellence. That's what it was. And I'm so glad. Like, we really did some things that we had never done before. And so I was very nervous about all of that. So we did some production that we've never done before. We had like this huge lineup. We brought in Karen Civil, and just like going for a bigger venue. We actually were outside of Denver. So we had a lot of pushback, like, oh, people are not going to come that far out of the city. But people came that far out of the city. And so it just all the way around was just this elated experience. So much so that on Sunday, I was like dead to the world. So I couldn't hear nothing, couldn't see nothing. I just watched Netflix, or Netflix might have been watching me. I don't know. But I was just completely done. And I don't know. Let me know if y'all can still hear me, because it looks like my screen is like freezing up some. What's up, y'all? What's up? So I'm seeing all these faces and names, I should say. So I'm so glad. What is up? All right. So I wanted to talk about Black excellence. Make sure, if you guys have not already hit the subscribe button, please share out the video. We getting ready to talk about Black excellence. Look, I want to just kind of like lightly drop some things that are coming down the pipe. You may have seen the logo changed, right? And so we haven't said much of anything, but part of the reason why, there was a couple of reasons why I haven't been on. So first of all, let me just acknowledge that I'm a single mom. I have 3 littles, and one of my littles, my big little, she went out of town to go visit family. And so she was gone for a little over a month. And that was kind of the start of it. It was like, y'all don't want to have my 2 and 3-year-old running around like crazy while I'm trying to talk to y'all. So that was kind of the start of like, struggling to go live. And then when she got back, I was in the middle of doing the BlackAgenda. So y'all know that has been going so well. Super excited about just the progress that we have made. We're coming to Oakland next. So was doing the BlackAgenda. And then I have my own summit, the Black Boss Summit. So it was like literally just hectic for a smooth minute. But in the meantime, we are also, and I'm not dropping all the information, but like I said, if you saw that the logo changed, just know that I have some things coming down the pipe around what's getting ready to happen. I'm going to introduce some new people onto the network and things like that, because it's time for us to change the narrative of our own media. And this is something that Michi is doing. This is something that I'm doing. This is something that there are others that are out there doing it. But I think it's time. I think we recognize that it's time for us to be in control of our own narrative. And, that's something that they want to stop. And so as much as, we like YouTube and things like that, we're also going to have to start building out some of our own platforms as well. I don't know how many of you are familiar with what's happening with Comcast and Byron Allen, and I haven't checked on it probably in the last maybe like 2 weeks, just because of everything that's been going on with my summit. And I've been doing, a lot of the traveling and everything. But, Byron Allen and the Comcast lawsuit, like that's a big deal, right? It's a big deal for us to recognize that we are owed something and to really go hard and to go fight for it. I'm gonna tell y'all a story because actually this is the other contributing factor to why I haven't been able to come on. I had to really work on my scheduling and just kind of rearranging some of my schedule. So a lot of y'all know I do the Black Business Initiative. And the Black Business Initiative is growing. I'm working on building a team, and I've had a lot of turnover and things like that, while you're trying to build the right team. And so, here's what's interesting about this Byron Allen situation, and actually how it kind of led to some of my own growth, right? So if you're not familiar with it, because I see at least someone's familiar with it. If you're not familiar with it, so first of all, yes, Byron Allen, he does own the Weather Channel, but there's a lot of things that he owns. That's probably just, one of the most notable ones. But Byron Allen owns the Weather Channel and some other things. But ultimately, what happens is that this rule from 1866, this law from 1866, ultimately what it says is that it mandates that the government does business with us. And that does not happen, right? And so we know that statistically that's not taking place. And there's all types of reasons for it. And all this kind of ties into Black excellence, and it ties into why I've been absent, and it ties into my own growth, because sometimes we have to take a stand. So Byron Allen's situation, he's basically suing, and initially he actually won, but they're trying to get everything overturned, right? So the crux of this is that he's saying, well, y'all are mandated to do business with me, or y'all should be doing business with me, and you're not doing business with me, and it's a racial discrimination case. And so what they are trying to do is not prove that racial discrimination is one of the factors. They want Byron Allen to prove that racial discrimination is the only factor. And that is something that you really cannot prove, right? You can't prove that the one and only reason why you didn't do business with me is because I'm Black. But instead, you can prove that it's one of the reasons why you didn't do business with me, right? And so what often happens is, and this is some of the work that I have been, coming across myself, is this whole idea of capacity building. So let me just kind of back up a little bit. The Black Business Initiative, basically what we do is we help work with Black entrepreneurs to start, grow, and scale, right? But the Black Business Initiative is in the same position as a lot of Black-owned businesses. So 96% of our businesses are single member LLC and sole proprietorships. And really what that means is that we're running our own ship. We run everything, right? So I'm fortunate enough, I don't run everything in my business because I hire out, but I hire out contractors. I've had very few opportunities to have an actual employee. So the majority of the Black Business Initiative is myself, and then I hire people as I need to be able to help me with that. So now we're getting into a position where we're taking on partnership and we're taking on employees, right? So we're scaling ourselves while we teach other Black-owned businesses how to scale. Okay, so a part of that work with teaching Black-owned businesses, one of the things that comes up in a lot of the rooms I'm in is capacity building. Black businesses don't have capacity. No shit. We don't have the money to go and pull from our homes when a lot of us are not homeowners, right? We don't have a lot of friends and family. Like, can you lend out a couple $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to your friend who's trying to start a business? So if we don't have friends and family who we can pull on to help us start businesses, right? We struggle to network in a lot of senses. We oftentimes don't have necessarily like the 401 or the other assets or the types of things that we need in order to pull dollars together so that we can start and fund our businesses. So when it's time for us to hire, buy equipment, buy supplies, even do basic things like secure marketing, secure, contractors or whatever the case might be, we come up shorthanded. Right. And so you can bootstrap. I don't like to romanticize other communities. Right. A lot of communities bootstrap their businesses. A lot of white folks bootstrap their businesses. But they have more resources to bootstrap their businesses, right? Even if you're working a job, how I financed the Black Business Initiative for the first 3 years of its existence was through my job. But what we also know is that I also get paid less. One, because I'm a woman. Two, because I'm Black, right? So the pay gap between what I would do versus, say, what a white man would do or a white woman would get for the same job typically is going to be less. That's why they give you a range when they're giving you a job, right? It's not just, it's, you know, $50,000, $60,000. It's between 50,000 and 65. Well, what makes the difference? What makes a difference is what gender you are and what color you are. So it's not really about what experience you have, right? That doesn't really make the difference, because if they had a top range of 65, I'm just making up numbers, but if they had a top range of 65, what would be their purpose of giving you 50 if you qualified? Right? So they give you that range because they want to be able to make sure that they don't have to pinpoint everybody into the same, pay bracket. So even though I bootstrapped, I still bootstrap with less resources, right? So this leads me to being in a lot of these rooms, we're talking about how to build capacity inside of the Black community. And especially a lot of places where they're gentrifying and where they're developing and where they're growing, right? So I live in Denver, and it's happening all over the place. We know Denver's not the only one. I also spend a lot of time in Detroit. I'll probably be there next week. And so, like, also this is happening in Detroit. We know that Atlanta has a lot of development happening. Houston has a lot of development happening. I'm sure there are other places. Those are some of the places I've looked at just because I've been looking at real estate in those places. But all of these places are developing. And that means that there's opportunity all the way around, right? So you have construction opportunity, but you also have professional services opportunities. There's a whole lot of opportunities that exist in places that are developing new markets. You can develop new business models. You can develop all type of stuff. And so we often get the short end of the stick on that because we're under capacity, right? We don't have the capacity to build, what we need to build, right? If you are looking at a $10 million plumbing project on a new build, do you have the manpower? Do you have the tools? Do you have the bonding? Do you have the insurance? Do you have all those things? And a lot of that you got to pay for up front, right? So you have to have a lot of that upfront money. And then when you start looking at certain industries, right, and you already may know what this looks like depending on what business you're in, but if you start looking at certain industries, you now have these pay gaps. So now what's expected is it's expected that I'm going to cover my own payroll for 3 months before I get a check so that I can pay out everybody, right? So now let's start throwing numbers out, right? Let's say I got 5 people who are making $50,000. So first of all, if you make $50,000, that's $4,000 a month. Okay. So now if I got 5 people, that's $20,000. That doesn't even include myself, right? So it's $20,000 that I need to be figuring out how to have for 3 months. That's $60,000, right? Plus, if they're truly employed, that means that I have to have insurance and pay FICA and pay, all these other, taxes or whatever to cut them their checks. And I need to have that up front when I take on this contract. So even if I took on, let's say I took on a $5 million contract, right? So if I took on a $5 million contract, I should be able to pay them. But I got to have all of that upfront money before I can pay them. Do I have all of that upfront money? I don't know. So we know roughly 60,000. So let's say, do I have maybe 80 grand sitting in the account already ready to go to make payroll before I get my first check, right? So then there becomes these pay gaps, right? So these are all the issues that Black businesses are facing. And again, let's not say white businesses aren't facing them, because I really want to start setting expectations. I really hate the fact, like, the more conversation I hear, I hate the fact that we romanticize what's happening in these other places. Like, it's just all glitz and glamour and they ain't got no problems. They have problems because white people are fucked up. They're greedy. So if you removed Black people out the way, there would be a class issue between rich white people and poor white people. So poor white people, what poor white people's problem is poor white people hate Black people, and they don't understand that if poor white people and Black people were to ever have combined their resources, that we could really, push towards greedy ass rich white people and have made that playing field more even. So what rich white people did was they pit race against each other so that they can take advantage of the class structure. Right? So let's not romanticize it. They got issues. They just not our issues. We ain't got to sympathize with them. We ain't got to work on their issues. We don't got to do none of that, but let's not act like they don't have issues. Okay, so these issues are happening inside of the white community. And as I always say, when the white community has a cold, Black America is finna die. So if they are already struggling to do this in their realm, right, with all of their privileges and all of their skin and all of the things that they're born with and that they have, right? So they have greater resources and they're struggling, then we're really struggling. So that's where I'm trying to make that comparison. It's not that they don't have issues. It's that they have issues and we have greater issues. So yeah, I see that Baker's Rebellion. Absolutely. So, okay. So now let's circle this back around. So this law was basically put in place, right? Saying that that you have to do business with us. So here's what's interesting. I'm listening to this situation with Byron Allen, and it's really making me think, right? Because he's talking all around advertisement. And all around advertisement is where they're saying, okay, there's all these marketing dollars that are getting pushed inside of the public sector, right? So of course, every newspaper, every magazine, on your timeline, all these places that we have ads that are getting pushed at us, right? And so these corporations and the government are supposed to be spending some of those marketing dollars with Black companies. So I'm a Black company. I've been working on building and cultivating this network, right? So I have a decent network that's moving right now. And so I get one day this email and they're saying, hey, can you push this paper out for me? It's a job fair. Can you push this job fair out for me across your network, right? So first of all, this is a friend who's asking this of me. I have a friend and he, in my network, and he hits me up and he's like, yo, can you send this out to your network? And I look at the paper and I'm like, this is coming from CDOT. CDOT is the Colorado Department of Transportation. The Colorado Department of Transportation, they have dollars, they have marketing dollars, they have advertisement dollars built inside their budget. And I'm thinking to myself, if they would have been looking to advertise their job fair inside of the Westword or inside of, the Denver Business Journal, were they going to advertise were they going to advertise in there for free, or are they going to pay those white publications? Of course, they're going to pay those white publications if they want to advertise their project in their publication. So I'm like, well, the problem is that, we see something like, oh, this is a great opportunity for our community, right? They can come and give us jobs, because this is the pushback I got. So I want y'all to just follow me, right? So I hear Byron Allen's situation and get me thinking, and I haven't done anything with these thoughts. It's just got me thinking that I don't like this situation. Like, okay, I didn't even know this was an issue like this. I don't like this issue. So now let me think about what I'm going to do. So now I get this flyer that comes across my desk saying, can you push this out to your network? And I'm like, no, they need to pay me. Now, it don't cost a lot to get out on my network. It only costs $20 whole if you want to advertise your event out on my network, right? But I feel like CDOT should pay my $20, right? CDOT is not short on any money. So if CDOT wants me to push this out on my network, CDOT should pay me. So I tell my friend, like, I'm not going to do it. And so his first reaction is like, okay, but people in our community, they need jobs. And see, this is where the hard part comes, because our problems are so multifaceted and so multi-layered that it's like, oh, so you have job information and you're going to withhold it because you're not getting paid. That's fucked up, Jice. You're not really down for the cause. You're down for $1. And so, like, I thought about that for a second. He didn't say that to me. First of all, let me just say, my friend did not say that to me. He was just kind of perplexed, like, okay, but there are people looking for jobs. Like, you're not going to send it, right? And I started thinking, like, no, I'm not, because when do we take a stand? So if we know that the government is mandated to spend marketing and advertisement dollars with us, but we always just roll over and do it every time they ask, then when do we take a stand, right? Because it's always for our greater good. So now I start really breaking this down, right? Because what they're doing is they're advertising all these like labor jobs, right? They're advertising the shittiest of the shitty shits jobs. That's what they're advertising. They're advertising the concrete jobs, and they're advertising the drywall jobs, and they're advertising, the hard labor type of work, right? They're not advertising like the top management positions. They're not advertising for the mid-level management positions. They're not really advertising for supervisor positions. Hell, at this point, they're not even advertising for subcontractor positions. So, they're trying to say like, oh, everything starts off at $20 an hour. This is really great. And the reality is that for somebody, that is really great. It really is. But let's think a little bit bigger, right? Let's think a little bit larger. And let me say that if they're going to be mandated to have X amount of Black folks, or let's say people of color, right? They're mandated to have minorities on their job, right? Why is it that they only want to give us the shittiest of the shit jobs to fill their quota? So at what point do we say, no, first of all, you need to spread out your job offerings throughout your entire ranks. You need to spread out your job offerings through your upper management, your mid-level management, your supervisory positions, your administrative and professional positions, and your labor force, not just your labor force. Then the second part of that is, if you want to advertise, you need to pay me to advertise, right? Because you pay white folks to advertise. So I had to really take that stand, right? So then I tell my friend, well, why don't you go ahead and just like loop me into this email? Who sent you that information? Send that information to me. So now he's just like, all right, Jice, do your thing, man. Here. So he shoots this email. Hey, CDOT, here's someone who you should connect with. If you're trying to get your jobs pushed down to the Black community, she can do it. Have at it, right? I'm paraphrasing. He did it very professionally, but he sends me he connects me, right? So now I'm having the conversation with this girl, and I'm like, yo, so we need to schedule a meeting and like help me understand what it is that you're looking for. So when I sit down and have a conversation with them, and this is where like stuff just, like I said, it just really starts to circulate, and we start to see the whole bigger picture. So this CDOT isn't even really controlling the project. They're just trying to get people on board for their contractor. So CDOT hires an organization to basically do community engagement, right? But this organization can't do community engagement. They can do some community engagement. They can do community engagement to the white community. They can do a little bit of community engagement to the Hispanic community, but they ain't really got no community engagement going on inside of the Black community. Now, I want to point out something else, right? Now, first of all, I'm into politics, but I really don't push really hard on my politics. I believe in policy, not people. I believe that you're never going to find the perfect match of a person who is going to be in 100% alignment with all the policy that they should be. But I also don't believe that we should simply vote for Black people just because they're Black. We need to really acknowledge what policy is being put in place. Policy is a thing that is governing our daily lives. And it's not whether or not that person is Black or white or whatever. It's what policy they're looking to put in place and how that policy benefits us or not benefits us. Because Black folks have definitely caused harm to the Black community. So I say all that to say, the reason why this push to get Black folks was even out there is because there was a Black politician in Denver who was not very popular with the Black community. And he was the one who pushed CDOT to actually find out where their numbers were. So CDOT said, we've met our quota. We have minorities on the job, enough of them. I ain't answering that. They said we have enough of minorities on the job, right? But he said, give me the breakdown of your minorities. And what they found is that the majority of their minorities were white women and Hispanics. And they had like 3% Black folks. And they never would have found that out if this one politician had not pushed to find out how their breakdown was really what their quota was really comprised of, right? So then even though he got voted out of office, this was the push that made them start saying, okay, well, we need to have greater engagement in the Black community. We're not getting Black folks. Why is that? Okay, So I meet with them, and basically, first of all, I'm not even about to say too much more than that because ain't nothing solidified in writing yet. So y'all let me like, y'all let me get the contract signed before I say much more. But understand this: my one push to not just promote out simply because it was best for our people to get these jobs. Let me tell y'all what I'm working on now. Now, what I'm working on with CDOT, with the primary contractor, and with the organization that was hired to do the community engagement. I'm working on community engagement. I'm working on finding out where all the jobs lie, not just the bottom of the shitty of shits jobs, but all the positions lie, to find out how we start building equity in all those places. I just found out who's creating some of the policy for this, because see, the policy didn't mandate that they put positions of that they put us in positions all throughout their hierarchy. They only mandated that they had a certain amount of people working on their jobs. So now I have, as a part of my project, I now have to address that policy, because that policy is wrong. That policy is wrong, right? So now we're going to talk about how we create equity throughout all the ranks. Then they're going to pay me for community engagement. So we're still going to get the jobs. We're still going to get the jobs, but they're not going to get my labor and my network for free. And so then we're also looking at a few other layers, like additional training for those of us who are on the job, so that we can have longevity, right? Because like I said, when they start talking this capacity building, and tying this back to the Byron Allen thing, how race has to be the only factor, right? Not one of the factors. So here's what happens in a lot of jobs. First, you're Black. Then they're going to talk about how you're not qualified, how you don't, you didn't adjust well, how you couldn't fit into the culture, how, you struggled with this skill, or you weren't proficient at that task, right? So what happens is that they give all these other reasons, right? They're never going to list out, we fired her because she was Black. They're going to say she was not proficient here, she couldn't handle this, she didn't do that. And oh yeah, overall, there wasn't a cultural fit, right? We're building a certain cultural experience inside of our organization, and she didn't fit inside that culture, right? But the reality of it is that she was Black, and they gave you all those other reasons. That's why I said it's impossible to just prove that the only reason is that you're Black. So we can't let them reverse this, this law to try and make it seem like we have to now prove that the only reason is being Black, right? But the other thing, and let's tie this back into some Black excellence, right? The other thing is that we give them so many other excuses, because we used to understand that we had to be twice as good, right? But when we were twice as good, we knew to expect we were going to get half as much. And now we're not striving to be, nor are we twice as good in a lot of cases. So you know what I'm talking about, right? Show up to work late, not professional. And by professional, we could talk about what professional standards are. But when you walk into a certain environment, you have to know what professional standards there are on that job, right? So that's why I work for me, because I like my own version of professionalism. So you may be professional to me, but you have to ask yourself if you're professional to the environment that you are working in. Excuse me. But we give them a lot of reasons, right? We give them a lot of reasons besides the fact that we're Black. So oftentimes we hurt ourselves because we walk into a space and we definitely don't always exemplify Black excellence. Definitely white women benefit the most. Yeah, but that's a policy. And so we're not involved enough in policy. And that's part of the problem. So when I started the Black Business Initiative, I started it with 4 pillars. I started it with business acumen, mentorship, access to capital, and patronage. But I've added a 5th pillar now, and that's policy. And that's why I said, even in this position, right? So I hear about Byron Allen. I decide I'm not about to be this person no more, right? No, I'm not going to just shoot your shit out for nothing. You're going to have to pay me. And that led me down a whole nother path that's getting ready to lead me to policy. Let me sign the contract first, y'all. Let me sign the contract. The contract is not solidified. But policy has to be added on, right? Because the whole purpose, or the whole idea that white women can take advantage of affirmative action and can take advantage of these quotas that get placed and are federally and state mandated for a lot of these contractors in order to pull in, disadvantaged businesses, right? The fact that white women get to take advantage of this is a policy issue. It's a policy issue, right? So sometimes we do have to take a stance. And even though it seems like initially we're saying like, no, what would have been good is that our people get these jobs. Like, no, what would be good is that our people get a fair shake at jobs across the whole spectrum, right? What would be fair is that businesses get paid to utilize their networks, in particular Black businesses, right? What would be fair is that organizations who come out to do community engagement actually have the ability and the resource to engage our community. Because what's really happening is that this would be a subcontract to someone who was contracted out to do community engagement. See, truthfully, they shouldn't even be there. They're just not going to give that to a Black firm, right? So it's really time for us to like work on changing the narrative, in a big way. Like in a big way, y'all, we got to start really going hard or going the fuck home. We cannot keep just doing business as usual. And what happens is this is something called an opportunity cost, right? So if you've ever taken a business course, you may be familiar with opportunity cost, but I don't want to make an assumption that everyone knows what that means. If you are not familiar with opportunity cost, understand that every time you make a decision, that's called opportunity cost. So every single time, and it may be more than two, right? But if you make a decision to do this, that means it cost you the decision to do that, right? So if you got A and B, if you go with A, you lost B. If you go with B, you lost A, right? Oftentimes you cannot do both, right? Or maybe you can. For example, I could have sent it out across my network and I could have went and pursued a conversation with them. But I felt like that would have weakened my position. So maybe that's choice C. Choice C is I do A and B, right? But then maybe it doesn't tip the scales right. So in all that you do is called an opportunity cost. And so I think oftentimes we are scared of the opportunity cost. So what ultimately what my friend was alluding to was like, what if our community doesn't get these jobs? So you should push it out. And what I say is, what if I push it out and we continue to stay in a position where we never get access to the marketing dollars that we're owed, right? And we're owed a lot of things. Marketing is just one of them. Marketing and advertisement is a multi-billion-dollar industry that we are getting just a slither of. So what happens if we don't push the narrative that you have to pay to advertise with us and inside of our communities? What happens if we never push that because we're afraid of what we're going to miss if we don't allow them to advertise inside of our communities for free? So when I spoke at my conference this past Saturday, I talked about Black excellence, and I highlighted the idea that Black excellence, or excellence in general, is being intentional. It's not being perfect. And I think we sometimes confuse that, right? We're going to make mistakes. I could have walked into that meeting and they could have laughed at me like, we ain't got to do nothing with you. And that could have happened. It's not excellence, but it is intention. And what I mean by that is that you don't come across excellence on accident. You're never going to come across excellence on accident. You may come across good. If you're lucky, you may come across great, but you're not going to come across excellent on accident. So even if you're naturally talented and naturally gifted at something, in order for you to be excellent in it, you have to be intentional about building and growing what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're working on. So Damien said he still can't get a business loan with the bank with Bank of America. You should hit me up. Oh, I see what you're saying. You did 60 1 year, 101 1 year, and then 115,000, and you can't get a business loan with your LLC. Damien, hit me up. Let's talk about it. I've gotten a few businesses loans. I've been able to get my business loans. So anyway, I really wanted to talk about Black excellence and tying that into being intentional, because even sometime when you don't know what it is that you're doing, right? And I walked into that meeting like literally not having a clue as to what I was doing. I was in the dark. I'm still in the dark, right? I'm still in the dark. I'm over here, like, now we're in a negotiation phase, right? I'm still in the dark. I've never negotiated this before. And so, you can say I don't know, and that prevents you from doing it, right? Or you can get out there and you can do something, and we'll see how it goes. And then you start reaching out to people who have done it, right? So now I found out two other people who have done contracts with this organization. So I have some meetings scheduled with them, right? And I've talked to some people who have put in some bigger proposals than I've put in, and I have some meetings scheduled with them, right? And that's the whole idea again around mentorship and everything that I'm talking about in the Black Business Initiative. Like, I'm doing all of it, right? So I continue to grow and learn. That's business acumen. I continue to get mentorship from people who are bigger and better than where I'm at, right? That's mentorship. I do access capital, right? So we've gotten grants, sponsorships, we make sales, and we've gotten business loans. So that's access to capital. And then in addition to that, we definitely circulate our dollars, right? And so now we're tipping on into the policy sector. So it's always, it's always important to really keep pushing that needle forward, and you don't have to know all the answers. So that's why I said Black excellence is not perfection. Excellence is not perfection. Excellence is intention. Make a mistake. Make a mistake. So that's just going to happen. So it's really not about it's not about being afraid to make a mistake. It's about preparing yourself as to how you're going to handle the mistake, how you're going to handle it emotionally, maybe how you're going to handle it financially. How are you going to handle it, from a people perspective? What are you going to do after that? It's never about if you're going to make it. You will make it. Then what are you going to do? Right. So I was already prepared that if I walked into the situation and for whatever reason we don't get this contract signed, right, and we gonna all, light up a candle that we will get it signed. But if we don't get this contract signed, guess what? Now, based off of what I started with that conversation, I have 4 additional contracts that I'm also working on. One of these contracts I'm gonna get. I hope to get all of them. But I will take any lessons from one and apply it to the next. I have 4 other contracts now based off of this same concept. And all of this started because I thought that CDOT should pay me $20. Or maybe it all started because I wanted to be intentional about not continuing to go down the same road. Maybe it started because there was somebody who decided to take a stance against Comcast. And even though he might win billions, he's alerting people to the situation so that we can begin to take a stance. You got to take a stance. I took a $20 stance and a chance that maybe I would get this organization to do business with me and not look at the Black community like a charity case. Because we're not a charity case. We're just not a charity case. And we have to recognize that we're not a charity case in order to get them to recognize that we're not a charity case. And that's what I had to explain. I said, I don't just need somebody to give me something for nothing because you feel sympathy. I'm not someone to feel sympathetic for, right? So I had to start changing the narrative. You pay me for a product or a service, like you would pay someone else for a product or a service. And so now, then we are now at a mutual level of respect because you didn't feel like you gave a handout to me, right? And a lot of our community does that. We go around asking for all these grants. And I'm not against grants. Like I literally write them myself. We are writing grants. We're writing grants because we have programming that we believe should be funded in order to give it to you for free. So we got to get it funded to give it to you for free. But I don't walk around feeling like everything that I do has to be a handout. Everything that I do is an exchange, right? Even the grant, the person creating the grant has something that they want. The exchange for the grant dollars is I'm going to provide you what you want. You want to create a social impact? I have a social impact. This is an exchange. And oftentimes we're not thinking about what the exchange should be. That's not how you practice excellence. There has to be an exchange. You want what my intellect is. You want what my creativity can produce. You want what my innovation can produce. You want what my labor can produce. And there's an exchange. You need to think about that every time you walk into your job. Your job is not paying you out of charity. Your job is paying you as an exchange for your labor or creativity or innovation or whatever the case might be. Oftentimes your labor. Depending on what position you are in, they are paying you for your creativity and your innovation. So when we do that, and you recognize that you are not subjected to less respect because they're paying you for something. And as long as you are providing that and you're providing it in a spirit of excellence, then you are owed that. Right? So you have to shift the way that you think in order for you to walk in with your head held high and recognizing that you are there to do something and you're not being paid out of charity. You're being paid for your services or you're being paid for your product. You can email me at info@BBIProfessional.com. So we got to start changing the narrative. So, what I want to leave out on is I just really want to stress this idea that Black excellence is not perfection. And we need to make sure that we're not holding people to the standard of perfection in order to recognize the excellence that they bring. You find excellence in intention. And through intention, you will get better. Matter of fact, you can become the expert. You can get to be one of the best in your field, in your craft, or whatever. But it is through intention. And even if you're not there now, you can get there by intentionally deciding where it is that you're going and taking steps to get there. And don't worry about if you fuck up, because you're going to fuck up. It's going to happen. Just work on mentally how you handle it. Work on mentally how you handle it. So I call. Yeah, email me, Damien, at info@BBIProfessional. You can email me and let's talk about what struggles that you're having to get financing for your organization. We can talk about that. So, I'm working to be back, y'all. I have a couple of these meetings for this. I have a couple of these meetings for this contract that I'm working on that have been popping up on some Tuesdays. So right now I am, working on that piece so I can start changing that around. But what I should be doing now is being back on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so there's some other developments and things like that are going on, but I like things to be really solid before I fully roll them out. So hopefully the next time you hear about this contract, it will be signed and in the bag, and a couple of these other contracts will be signed, because we're out here to really change this narrative. We're out here to change these policies. We're out here to change what opportunities are available for our people. And more importantly, we're out here to create our own opportunities. But we got to have the policy to support them. And that's really important. Like, while we're on American soil, we have to have the policies to support us. And so if you do want to look at some of these other communities and what they do, you look at how they begin to create some of the structures that support what they're doing. So, all right, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. There's a lot of updates, and so I'll be making sure that we start posting them to YouTube. I'm gonna start introducing some other people on the network, and all of that. So also, y'all can catch me at my Patreon account. I actually switched it up recently, so I'm doing a whole different thing over on Patreon than I was before. I don't have a lot of different tiers. If you go and you see those different tiers now, they're going to be removed by the end of this month. So I'm rolling out where I have one tier, and we're going to be doing coaching off of that one tier and that one tier only. And so it'll be running my group coaching program that way instead of kind of offering different tiers and different levels of stuff. If you want to come on in at that, it's going to be $20 a month. That's it, to do some live streaming around some coaching. And that coaching will be around productivity and mindset and getting your business where you want it to be. You can definitely, inbox me and hit me up. I got some people who coach with me one-on-one as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can hit me up. I don't take on a lot of one-on-one coaching clients at one time. So I do tend to kind of taper that down when I don't have any open slots. I have a couple of open slots right now. Then once those are filled, you won't really hear me talking about that until I have a couple more slots that open up. So I don't do long coaching packages. They're like 3 to 6 months typically. So they kind of, it fluctuates depending on what my load is at that time. But that's all I got for y'all. So I'll be back on Thursday. And until next time, y'all, peace.